Shout out to all the Dirty Nation. Shout out to the Kennel. Shout out to OG Silverback. And this is a video, right? I ain't gonna go too into it, but too deep. But I'm gonna say I respect OG Silverback, man. I respect him, and at the same time, he knew what it was. So that's why it's like when you approach another man, there's always a common ground. That's my belief. There's a common ground somewhere. You just gotta find it. And sometimes if emotions and things is involved, sometimes you gotta step back and let them emotions flare up and shit. Then you catch them on the downslide a little bit before you do what you do. So let me tell you a story. This story right here, this is some true shit, man. So when I was in the pen, my celly, no good, Philip Busby, my celly, we was on the yard, right? The homies was getting into it. We come from me and No Good, we come from a different era than a lot of the younger homies. Like we come, cause not only was we just in one neighborhood, we was in more than one neighborhood. So we had the belief as a youngster, like shit, you ain't about to confine me just here. I'm gonna be here, and build real love with real relationships with real gangsters or real black men, or real people, period. So fast forward, what does that transcend into prison? Well, whatever it is, that's respect. It transcends to respect because you really be knowing these people. So a situation happened, hit the fence, yard down. But a situation happened, right? Where the homies was getting into it. Like they was split. There was literally about to be a war, an internal conflict war with the homies, because the older homies really didn't understand that time had moved on and the gangs out here have mutated to something else that they didn't understand. See, before, when Sacramento got into it, it would have just been, first it transcended, like Oak Park and the Heights got into it, or Oak Park and the Meadowview got into it. Then it went to somebody from Sac and Zilla got into it. Sac and Zilla got into it. Then it went forward to now it's Sac would get into it with, somebody from Oak Park would get into it with somebody from the Heights, Valley High, and maybe a Crip nigga if he's around. And the older homies didn't understand that the times have moved on the streets and changed and stuff mutated to something else. So there was very few OGs that were in the middle that remember the way it was and know how it is now to explain it to the older homies so they can understand what's going on. And the thing is, No Good he hadn't been out. He remembered the old school. He didn't know how it really was. He just had to hear bits and pieces, and then his family had to kind of tell him and break it down. But when somebody from his own era, own class came in, fresh from the streets, when I went back in and told him, I'm like, look, blood, this is what's going on now. This shit is crazy. It's different. And it was fresh, and he knew he could take that to the bank, that's the change. And then all of a sudden, he started to see, like, damn, this shit is real. These niggas it's all changed. And so what happened is there was about to be a skirmish that was going to involve some of the people from my era, because all we know is one way. We don't know this new way. So the youngsters is about to clash and get the other people involved, all because of something that the older people ain't understanding. So I told Philip, I told No Good, look, man, you're the only person qualified on this yard to draw peace right now. You're the only person. I could do it, but I'm about to go home. I'm about to go home in like a matter of like weeks, bro. So my mentality is entirely different. My mentality is I'm about to go home. Like, truthfully, I'm supposed to care less. I'm supposed to be back on my hands, kick back with my head, watching TV, looking at that calendar. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. But I'm watching the homies about to crash. And Philip was like, man, this shit crazy, man. I just want to be left alone. I'm like, blood, sometimes we want to be left alone, but sometimes you got an obligation to fulfill. Like, you got a real life obligation to fulfill. And you the only person. Like, the older homies don't understand and the younger homies got no guidance. So right now, you the only person that's qualified to go out there and make peace. Right now, at this very moment, and that's just from one G to another, homie to homie, brother to brother. And you know what? He was like, man, Dirt, fuck. He was like, man, if somebody like you saying something to me, I can't ignore that. If somebody else says something, I'd have been like, let them niggas fight. But somebody like you saying that, I can't ignore it. And what happened is, No Good went out to the yard. The homies said what they said, and that nigga went Braveheart on their ass. That nigga went Denzel Washington training day on their ass. And guess what? At the end of his speech, there was peace. Not everybody agreed with it. Not everybody always agrees with peace, man. Not everybody. But me, I always went for peace. And I was never like the type to promote violence, because I think about like how would my mom feel if all of a sudden she got a phone call that said that I ain't gonna be coming home. If when I come home, I'm coming home in a box. Or can you come pick up his final remains? Or where would you like to send his property? Man, I don't want my mama going through that shit. So, but I've seen it happen. So therefore, I was always for peace. Like, I was always for peace, man. Save the young homies, protect the young homies from themselves, because they don't know no better. And don't take advantage of others. And just like I was taught when I first came to prison, don't mess with no punks. Don't gamble on your ass. Don't leave no homies for dead. And stay away from Stay away from politics. Stay away from politics. That's what I was taught. Them four right there and don't steal. Them was five cardinals right there. 5 cardinals. So therefore, I followed them. And a civilian could probably follow them too. It'd probably be a little harder, but a civilian could follow them too. That was my final things. But I say that to say, man, in the confusion, there's always an opening. And when you see the opening, you gotta know when to say, give me the ball. I'm going for it. And take it. And I'll leave you another scenario. There's this guy, man. There's this guy named Dynamite. Man, we had a problem. We had an issue inside before I was about to come home from Old Folsom. I'm talking about like the issue that we had on that yard was like at least like 7 months before I was about to go home. And we got into it. It was similar to what happened with me and Silverback. Similar. Me and him had a problem. One night he made a comment and I didn't like it. And we got into it. He huffed his chest. I huffed my chest. I probably did a little more than I should have, but I just felt like I was disrespected by what he said. So I did what I did. So we didn't fight or nothing, but because we was 2 lions in this jungle, we just decided not to mess with each other. And I would be around him, he'd be around me. Sometimes he would leave, like we couldn't stomach each other. And we getting around and we want to talk. We doing weird shit. Like we in groups of homies. We're both involved in the same conversation, but not talking to each other. How that work out? Like we commenting on the same shit, but we not talking to each other in the midst of the same conversation that we in. That was some weak shit. And I acknowledge my part on that. But the thing is, he told me once upon a time about a story that he learned. It was a parable about us being in the jungle. Like, picture us being in the jungle and picture us being, if we're in the jungle, we're on the lion's back. We're on the back in this jungle. So the thing is, when 2 people have a problem, they're both on the lion's back. And you have to pick the right time to jump off this lion's back, or he's going to eat both of y'all. So that's why I said, if you're on a let me repeat it. If you're in a jungle and you're in a struggle, you and this person are locked in a conflict for whatever reason. You have to pick the right time to resolve it. So that means while we're on this lion's back, we have to pick the right time to jump off this lion's back, or it's gonna eat us both. So if you have a problem and you mad and he mad, that ain't the time to talk about it. That ain't the time to resolve it. Cause y'all ain't gonna see that this lion is already been positioned and turned around and eat both of y'all. So you gotta pick a good time to jump off the lion's back. But in respects to Dynamite, the story was in reference to him when he was in the pen and he had a neighbor and they used to talk all the time. And then one day they just stopped talking and they had stopped talking. Maybe they got into it, maybe whatever. But so much time had passed that he didn't even realize, like, damn, like, I haven't even talked to my neighbor in damn near like 6-7 months. And we live right next door to each other. So he said one day he just came out like, hey, homie, whatever I did, man, I apologize, man. We used to talk all the time. It's just so much time that went past. We was cool. I don't even know what did we stop talking for? That was the right time to get off the lion's back. So in life, remember that if you engaged in conflict with somebody, man, you got to pick the right time to jump off the lion's back or the lion will eat you both. Dirty weather. Go.